A lively one, I hope, to keep us all awake and going through to the end of the day. So I will do introductions as we go along, but I'll just throw something to think about while I do the introduction. The panel this time. So after the introductions, I want to hear from each of you. If you have one work-related wish, I'm sorry, not retirement in Barbados. One thing, I don't know, the one thing that keeps you awake at night, or the one thing that you would, just if you could wake up tomorrow and wave a magic wand and change about the industry here, what would it be? I think that's the way we'll get into it. Okay, so going across to the introductions, I have my immediate left here, Dave Buterak, who is CEO of OSN, the former head of operations at BSkyB, COO for Astra Malaysia, Star TV in Hong Kong, and Win TV regional network in Australia. We have Karim Sarkis, executive director. Yes, I have. Executive director for television for Abu Dhabi Media. Karim has a background in consultancy, in senior management at LBC. The last 4 years at Abu Dhabi Media, which included the launch of the Premier League pay TV channels. We have Irshad Contractor, who's chairman of ICHD, also chairman of Technisat, makers of satellite receivers, and ICHD. Explain this in further detail later, as I understand, the HD decoder box for the free-to-air NBC channels, correct?
That's right.
I have Nick Grande, Managing Director of Channel Sculptor. Nick is strategist, consultant, advisor for companies like MTV, Showtime, RTL, 2454, and a host of other companies in this region. A lot of experience. And Magnus Simons, who's Sales Director for Yar Live. Yar Live is a partnership between Yarsat and SES Astra, offering satellite capacity across the Middle East, Europe and Southwest Asia. Okay, so introductions done. Let's start with you, Dave. What is your one fervent wish to change? You're relatively new to the region, so what is it that you've come and thought, what on earth is going on there?
Is it one thing or one list of things? Look, there are many things that I would like to change if we could. I think the unique nature of advertising in this market is perhaps the most polite way of putting it, which I'd like to change. But probably the key thing for any pay TV platform, ourselves included, would be the issue of piracy, and the issue of piracy both in the legal reception and most importantly in this region, the illegal redistribution of content. I think as an industry, that's the one thing that we really need to focus on, so that this industry can actually evolve into the real world and be able to invest significant money that it needs to create a growth industry across the board.
And OSN, I mean, you've done a lot with piracy. Do you still perceive that as a major problem?
Look, piracy is on two fronts. Technical piracy, yeah, we invested $55 million to do a complete card swap to get a secure conditional access base so that we can eradicate the illegal reception, and that's been very, very effective. We're 16 years in, we're seeing by far and away the biggest sales this company's ever seen. This year we'll add 34% to the sub-base in a single year. So that's fine, that's our responsibility. The illegal redistribution we can't do without assistance from government, and what we really still need to see is some modernisation of the attack on illegal redistribution. Intellectual property crime, unfortunately, by most governments, not all, and by most people, is seen as a victimless crime, and very clearly not a victimless crime. Our industry would be able to invest significantly larger sums of money in original production, in creating skill sets, in advancing the creative industry that we would like to see in this region, if piracy could be eradicated.
Okay, and we'll get on to advertising, I promise, later on. It's a subject close to my heart at the moment. Karim, what's your great wish?
To sum it up, basically, it would be to wake up and find that television broadcasting has a sustainable business model in this part of the world. That would be the method.
I meant something vaguely realistic.
He said wish. I think if you look at what's happening in our region, if you take away governments that are willing to lose money in media, if you take away investment arms of government that are willing to lose a lot of money while trying to build sustainable businesses, if you take away high net worth individuals that also seem to be willing to lose money in media, if all of these woke up one day and decided they've had enough, you wouldn't actually have any quality content on the screen. And what's important to remember about broadcasting business is that although it's a very bad business to be in, it does support a very, very large ecosystem of very profitable businesses, whether it's the ad agencies, the media buying, even sometimes outdoor media owners, content producers, actors, and so on. So it's very important that we have a healthy business so that the rest of this ecosystem benefits. And then also, to David's point, that also then means we as broadcasters can then have proper channels that have proper content throughout the day, not trying to squeeze everything into 2 or 3 hours in prime time, because that's all we can afford to do. And so the consumer would benefit, the business, the economy would benefit, and the broadcasters would benefit.
You're saying you don't think there would be high quality content if all those subsidizers were out of the market?
Effectively, yes. I mean, I don't know if anyone can come up with a single large media group that's producing great stuff that isn't one way or another either subsidized now or had to be subsidized for a very long time to get to where they are now.
So what would the landscape be like if we were in that situation?
We'd have about 50 text SMS channels, I think. Maybe we wouldn't have so many satellites up in the air because there wouldn't be so many channels that are willing to lose money. So that would also not work. But we wouldn't have a lot of people making, not so many ad agencies, not so much business and media buying. There's a whole ecosystem that would just fall apart.
Irshad?
If I would like to wake up and see that all the channels have moved to MPEG-4, if that happens, that's really good news, because I've seen that shift from analog to digital, and it had taken probably 8 to 9 years for all the analog receivers to be replaced to digital. And we expect that there are about 45 million receivers in the MENA region which have to be replaced every time there is a shift of technology. So when analog moved to digital, 45 million receivers got replaced in approximately 6-7 years. I don't know how many, but it took a long time. This time, I don't know how long it's going to take, but every year at the CAPSAT exhibitions, while we exhibit, we see a lot of channel broadcasters coming to us and telling us, when will you have enough MPEG-4 HD boxes in the market? And we continue to tell them, when are you going to move to MPEG-4 transmission? Because if there are no channels, well, how can we sell boxes into the market? And the channel guys keep telling us that if there are channels and no boxes, how can we start broadcasting MPEG-4? So that's a wish, that if you wake up one day and all the channels are MPEG-4, then we would have the 45 million receivers to have to be replaced, and that's a great opportunity.
Okay, yeah, sounds like a good business to be in. Nick?
Well, first of all, on Irshad's point, I expect you'd like 10 million or more of those to be Technosat receivers. It's from a purely idealistic point of view, I'd love to see more support for entrepreneurship in the region. There are so many independent wealth-backed institutions operating as broadcasters, and it's sometimes hard to see who might ever be profitable. And I know that companies like Showtime or Orbit Showtime now have on occasions been quite successful and indeed brushed with IPO. Practically speaking, innovation suffers when businesses aren't searching for profit, and so my sort of personal wish would be that we could see more innovation and more openness to entrepreneurs, fewer barriers to entry for entrepreneurs. And I think practically one of the things that would really help that process is if we could cease to see the Middle East region as 22, 23 countries and start to be able to see it as a series of markets where content owners can sell their product to those individual markets, and more importantly, advertisers can target those individual markets without having to worry about the overspill, without having to worry about buying Egypt in order to get Saudi. So, and I think that is a distinct possibility in the next 5 years, that we might see the region cease to be this amorphous blob and start to be perceived as separate countries of 30 million people in some cases like Saudi, and even the UAE, 7 million people, is a very desirable market in its own right without having to buy the rest of the region.
The question about entrepreneurship, is this something, in your opinion, we touched this morning on industry bodies and cooperation. Is it because people in this region's market very much operate sort of every man for themselves?
That's first of all,
do everything themselves.
It's not confined to the Middle East. I mean, television is a very sexy industry. People want to go into television for very many reasons, not necessarily for profit. And there are plenty of examples internationally of broadcasters that have no real profit intention, but have an intention to deliver a message or to deliver a particular set of values or whatever it happens to be. But what we see here is that it's difficult to see how one could ever generate a profitable business, and that's the difference. And I think what happens is when, from my own experience, commonly individuals or businesses that come up with new innovative ideas tend to get consumed or subsumed into larger organisations, or worse still, copied out of existence. So it's another form of piracy from the consumer piracy that David was talking about, but it does hamper the growth of the industry here a lot.
Is it just people aren't used to working in that sort of model? I mean, you say, take the you came up, which I wasn't familiar with. People are used to working with a lot of different providers and sourcing things. Whereas here, I guess there's much more of a keep it all within your own walls. Is that?
Yeah, I mean,
the mindset.
There is a certain, what I would call a sort of a train set mentality that you can sometimes come across, where you'll see it when a new television station launches. Frequently, the first decision is the technology. It's not about who the audience is or what exactly the product is intended to be, but the first question out of the bag is where are we going to base this, and what technology, how many millions of dollars are we going to spend to create this product. And because there's no sensitivity on the initial outlay price, questions about revenue quite often don't come up until after the channels or the networks have launched. I mean, I have to say that there are efforts, periodically you see real efforts to change that, and in my 7.5 years at Showtime, we were constantly trying to maintain EBITDA positivity. There was definitely the intention to be a business and to recoup some of the initial investment. But it's a very, very competitive market. I think Irshad's efforts in ICHD are very interesting in terms of whether he can generate profitability. It does start smaller as well in terms of small businesses with innovative ideas. I work with a client called Shufi TV, who are the region's main aggregator of electronic programming guide content based out of Jordan. And what tends to happen is their biggest customers tend to be the telcos, and frequently the telcos will look at what they're doing and say, well, that's a great idea, why don't we do that? And there's nothing to stop them from doing it.
And Magnus,
yes.
as a satellite platform?
Well, representing YaLive, which recently launched its satellite, I would have to agree with Irshad. Obviously, as YaLive is an HD-only satellite, and conversion to MPEG-4 and HD is definitely a wish that I have.
Okay. So going back then to the business models, I mean, that is obviously what's underpinning a lot of this, either by working on satellite platforms or by how the channels operate. How do we get then to a point where we do have sustainable business models? Is it by the platforms, the IT platforms? Is that